Chapter 13. On go the days. Michael and Adam both have wounds that begin to heal. The two friends help and support each other through the lingering ailments and memories. As for Michael, he has been through these vicious battles far too many times. He sees all these tribulations, these memories. If it all continues to linger within his mind, it will grind his existence into one that will break him before his time is done. As Michael and Adam talk, the book which Michael gave Adam is mentioned. Adam reveals to Michael what was to be regarded and appreciated from that gift. Adam reveals that within that book was illustrated knowledge that was basic, overlooked even. This collapse of observance was indubitably evident at the time where this illustrated knowledge was first glanced at. However, Adam makes it known that this necessary information has now secured a certain foundation within his cognition. This basic knowledge was amplified after the fact of the tragedy. I guess it brought a few things to light. One of those things being the nature of the body. I never paid it any mind, Adam says. Adam looks at his own physical being. He runs his hands over parts of his arms. Then he gazes away from them. Reasons of how and why things fail, Adam says. Michael realizes that as harrowing as it sounds, these fundamentals awaited triggers to be made conspicuous for Adam to detect or regard. In other words, this physical assault was and is completely essential and therefore irrevocably natural. Through their conversation, it is also revealed that Adam's comprehensions from these readings about the body were released in an extensively enhanced effect upon his mind. Consequently, reconciling a reality to his mind with an abundance of effectuality right before he arrived at the moment where he was ready to die. Adam had gained a certain measure of control and understanding over the manifestly notable way a body and a mind is and will be. I guess it just crept into my mind. You know, what the inability to go on is. I guess in a sense, Adam says. For a moment here, Adam doubts himself. He doubts his surety relative to these sentiments, and more so than that, he doubts his surety in respect to what he intends to utter within those sentiments. He reassures himself. He forcibly swallows this doubt whole. I am no longer haunted by death. It will be my end when I meet it, Adam says. Adam's relief is clear to see. In his mind, Michael reflects over the comfort and relief that he too was once offered and given when he was at his end. Michael can see that Adam comprehended and now understands what Michael was once offered and given in time. However, through swallowing it, Adam's renunciation of this doubt was not natural. Time is a natural course, and time always unfolds in this verifiable manner. Michael can see the forced nature of Adam's swallowing of his doubt. One day, Adam will have to revisit this doubt again. Adam will have to do this time after time. The mind will find ways to renew itself until a balance is achieved. It will be renewed. It will be redeemed. And once redeemed, a life will be given to Adam anew. Michael knows this. Michael has been through these revisitations many times. He has since left the revisiting. His mind has found another way. Through encountering, comprehending, and by the best of his abilities, understanding the needlessness of being haunted upon a blood-stained floor. Adam's mind recognizes this hideously bloodied encounter and naturally associates that encounter with any other relative situation. That association and recognition stretches through the past and present of his life. The many relative situations corresponding a likeness to the blood-stained one leads Adam to realize a determination, doubtlessly, that he can always achieve an eventuality which would have been and still can be similar to the way he has now transcended the haunting. In fact, he also realizes that he could have always achieved that eventuality, most particularly within those relative situations. This transcendence shows Adam something. It shows Adam that peace and the ability to fare well was something he was always capable of. The only maneuver which he truly had to carry out is and always was a reasonable belief in himself. Adam now understands that this belief was always plausible and feasible to expect from himself. Belief. It laid quiet, untapped, and untouched for many days, and there lying with it is and always was a willingness to accept all parts of himself. His courage, his compassion, his determination. It brings Michael great joy to see Adam achieve peace within. Adam's life as is triggers a joyful reminiscence in Michael's mind. Adam's growth has given Michael another perspective in life. All the past occurrences have all led to this, having a natural reason to live. Michael then looks inward once more. He looks at the path he once took. He ponders all the failures that had befallen him and had thus stood firmly in his way. It had all at one point drew his derision and pain, inwardly in silence. His mind swirls mightily. I got bolder and more deceitful with my lies and betrayals and criminality. There were many chances for me to turn back. I should have turned back, but I didn't. Michael rues how he did not turn back, for it would have saved him from so much pain. However, he remains calm and objective through this ruefulness. It does not despond or immobilize him. I made a choice not to. I was a man who made a choice. Michael rues the choice he once made even more. There is a sense of despair that comes to him. Michael searches his mind to calm that which despairs him in time. In his search, what seemingly comes to his acknowledgement is the sorrow and throe he had witnessed from many days gone by. He saw this sorrow and throe casted upon the innumerable faces of others. He remembers seeing all this. Incidentally, he noticed all this while being deeply engrossed with the enactment of his many crimes. These sorrows were all recognizable visual signs that had occurred around him repeatedly and consistently. In hindsight, each manifestation has prevailed in time. Michael's mind recognizes this prevalence now. At the time of those many occurrences, his mind should have been triggered to surge and escalate in his perceptiveness within, thereby allowing him to be acutely aware of the unfolding, an awareness of where he was in life, an awareness that he was indeed on a scorned path. But he consciously chose to brush off any insight, ignoring it all with the aid of his inward reasoning and persuasion. And so there he was in life, entangled by his own resolve. He willfully blocked out all thoughts of sympathy, sorrow, and kindness. He thought that those traits made him weak. He could not bear to show a weakness outwardly, not to those cohorts that he recognized as friends. Within the days of his life, he would not even show it to himself. He would try with all his fortitude to hide it from himself. An arduous task it was, to be a prey of his own thoughts, a prey that was unceasingly watchful. Ever he lived in fear and doubt. His perceptions of devotedness did not extend much beyond what was said and done in plain sight. He did not know how to comprehend the layered profoundness that needful human interactions offered. When Michael came across any act of another, he did not see the reasons behind those acts, even if he were aware of a reason. He would not perceive it as a valid basis. He never used to watch or notice the way another would develop and emerge as they act. He never wanted or even desired to consider or understand the reason of those acts of another. There were broader meanings in another's realizations. He did not want to know these things for himself. He could care less, and as these broader meanings fell away from him, he began to esteem the loss of meaning in his own acts as adequate and delightful. There were important achievements he wanted for himself in life, and he feared that if he had veered any of his time and efforts towards another person, he would waste much of his very own limited vigor. Everything to him, anything that sustained him, was limited and scarce. He would never have enough of what he coveted and attained. He always and ever was in a struggle against his inward anticipations of what the future might hold. This diverse and copious combination of disdain and ignorance bled his life dry of meaning and conception, which tragically submitted him to the mercy of others. For he had no inward conceptualization to lean upon when there came a need for adaptation in time. And so the numerous chances to turn back fell away from him time after time. In this falling away, he chose to do many acts that caused many sorrows. He willfully saw his acts as growth and progress. Every statement and claim he made held within it deceit and anger. His being was continuously ripped and shredded. It came to grow incomplete. He went down a path he should not have gone. He always had to turn back. as his being grew ever so much more incomplete with every passing moment. It was clear that his greed would not be tamed, for in those passing moments, he did not view any potential taming as desirable or safe. In being incomplete, he viewed those voids he withheld as many emptinesses which were to be possibly filled by what his greed coveted. In the aftermath of procuring those desires, it ultimately did not overcome the emptiness's unease. As the unease failed to cease, he remained stubborn in his untangling resolve. So there Michael was, entangled by this stubborn resolve. Added to that entanglement was the crucible of having to fight off the disquieting emptinesses which bore within him. Consequently, Michael's mind was overwhelmingly occupied with many moments of inward oppression. Moments where his hopes for the future were in terrible doubt. The loss of hope and lurking of doubt gave Michael into despair. In order to relieve his mind of this hopelessness and despair, he desperately attempted to tread a way forward in life. In fact, Michael was so desperate that he paid no mind to what losses had mounted around him, or even how those losses had occurred, for that matter. Michael treaded so as to achieve some semblance of progress or advancement upon this path he had chosen to cling on to so desperately. It was a way forward, at least from his previous vantage point. A vantage point which was, in hindsight, minuscule. This ultimately resulted in the prolonging of a cycle which had within it much treachery. That being said, the chance to better things will always be there. Michael clearly remembers this presence. In hindsight, Michael also remembers that on far too many occasions, he passed it by. Those chances, they were all a single reality. He recalls seeing and passing them by over and over again because he treaded in hopeless circles. Circles of missteps and exploits. There were many times where someone or other came close to discovering his true motivations. This might have forced him to confess, come clean, or even start afresh. Thus, causing him to show his true face to others. But in order to conceal the truth of his malice and greed, he lied and deceived, further avoiding the taming. It was his choice to strangle all the truth within in order to maintain this concealment. He continuously searched for ways to thrive and connive in his surroundings. However, he saw no depravity in his ways. He was doing what he knew to be fair and right for himself, and so he withheld his guiltlessness. He continuously chose the path of perceived ease and repeatedly gave in to temptations and impulses, for he grew enamored with the way it made him feel. He could not look past the potential of his incoming gains. The satisfaction of fruition ultimately nullified any guilt Michael might have felt in those acts. I couldn't help it. I'm no longer a proponent of that. I have let that go. He comforts and forgives himself once again. Through time, many pains and derisions could end up showing a particular purpose. And as Michael can clearly see now, All he witnessed had all been put before him to inspire him to steer clear of any future travesties. He lifts his chin and breathes in the free air. The moment saturates Michael with appreciation. An appreciation for what is and what was. The ponderous weight of his past is leaving him again. Michael is very thankful for this saturation. Adam turns to Michael. I guess these attacks will continue, Adam says. Yes, there are troubling circumstances out there. The baneful masses have evolved in time and have grown to be bolder in their actions. Their atrocities are unkind and cruel. They bring forth a resolve that is motivated by the very pursuit of vindication. And not just vindication alone, but they seek retribution as well. Retribution with a vengeance. Their past failures stand preeminent in their waking thoughts and actions. You can see it in everything they do. It is also clear to see that there is a sense of reckless abandon with their prolonged existence and continued success. However, look around. This world has already seen much reconciliation occur. Many have been appreciative and content for many days. Life and the world offer much more situations of decency that are in need of examination and appreciation. It flourishes and adorns the mind. We have to delve within this appreciation and allow it to be a part of ourselves. That way, we can make amends and reparations in time. Hope is eternal. May you and I remain steadfast and hopeful. Let us begin with that, says Michael. Michael says this with a smile coming to him. As he talks, he hears himself. As Michael hears himself, he begins to remember George in this pact with Adam. Those few and others. They do what they can to influence another's way of thinking with subtle approaches. They wish to instill and impress a concept upon another. A conceptualization that is sympathetic to the few's cause. They do what they can so that another will come to interpret the few and others as being deprived of numerous certainties in life. Thus, forming an eagerness within another to help the few, whose need is thought to be great. The few's offerings of influence subtly inundate our daily lives. There are offerings of products and options to consummate this manufactured eagerness everywhere. This, however, can all be abstained and refused. But only if one were to so choose that outcome as a preference. We need not be divided or bled dry. Many who have chosen to oppose the few and others have been deposed from their posts of services. These acts of deposing and influencing another are all part of a plan that has been fashioned since the few's last shameful collapse in days past. This plan will continue to unfold so as to consolidate their power to ensure that another collapse will never happen again. The few dare to take from another what they themselves dread to live without. Their current path is justified in their minds by fear. Those few and others, it is not for nothing that they act the way they act. Their folk and kin that remain dearest to them live far away from the few. And over there, Their kin and folk live a life where invulnerability is not certain. The few and others are now trying to gather all strength and power within this house of their own by bleeding another absolutely dry. Historically, it has been proven that there is no escape from the clutches of the overlords. Subversion or overthrowing their rule would only leave a vacuum of power which will be quickly occupied by those with a great motivation. You can put your hopes and faith in other men if you so choose. But for all you long for, another cannot live your life for you. It is literally impossible. Only you can do as such. Another may have intentions that are altruistic, but they simply cannot navigate through unfamiliar territory. No matter how resourceful they are, another does not have the mind or time to live for any other one. There is no need to find an escape within them. You are all you need. Casting your hopes and faith upon another will only be a temporary solution to a problem that has plagued man since the dawn of everything we have known. We, who are bled dry, the few truly pay no mind to us. The few are not threatened by us or what we have within as capabilities. And they definitely do not worry about the consequences of slandering or shaming us. And why would they? We are bled absolutely dry, and the few control the flows of might and power in our lives. These overlords do worry, however, about those who have a great motivation, those few and others. They are trying to protect themselves against that foe which is furious. A foe who is quickly becoming one, whose arsenal is that which no amount of strength or resources can harbor the few and others safely away from. A foe that has always been against the few's cause in this world. A foe who has assiduously and constantly attempted to duplicate the feats of the few and others. But to no avail. The foes want and gravely desire what the few have been in possession of for many days. All are matters that can be pored over as facts within time. It is and was subservience that has left and will leave these foes indignant. However, the foes have attained a great might in this world once more, and this has been achieved through their many endeavors. They crave to be preeminent in the world. This craving has driven their every act and has landed the adversarial foe in a position to threaten all. If there should ever be a vacuum of power left behind by the current few and others, these foes will be strong enough to challenge for supremacy. The foe will crave for the submission of all. It is a strong yearning that would result in a great torment for all. Michael says. Michael can see and hear all around that there is a verbalized and actualized form of desperation within many. A desperation for a sense of direction in life. And they will seek out this direction, no matter the cost. And so he continues his conversation with Adam. We have seen it, haven't we? Those who seek submission will force the shame of all to come to pass. The world will see much fury and throe before all things will be said and done. We have no choice. No matter how much we dominate over others, no matter how many means and techniques we accumulate, all deeds are creations of man's will. Nothing we can ever do will ever change the finality of where this world will eventually arrive. This nature of the unfolding has always been true. Through their frustration at life, the truths of the foe's intent have been unveiled and shown, for their minds have a finite ability, and they have unknowingly let their guard down in time. Their minds have misplaced the memories of just how arduous and meticulous of a task it was when and where they seized control over many things. They have eventually taken those many controls as a given in life. Michael says. Michael then recalls the day of protest and animosity. We are disenfranchised with the overlords. Overlords have hacked and sawed their way to power. Along the way they have accumulated many enemies. They are firmly opposed by foes that hate these few overlords and despise us, the ones who are bled dry. The contempt and animosity is real, for as we are bled dry, the few grow stronger. Michael says. Michael knows he must be at one with himself, through and through. However, Michael decides to further consider what is unfolding before Adam and himself. They have a shared history together, you know. The struggle can be traced back through the aged ancestries of both the few and the foe. And it is a far way back indeed. The works and acts of these kinfolks within this struggle have extensively determined this conflict's present course and consequences. All of their countless deeds have been set in time and is the story of this world. Some deeds had unfolded upon all as a gift. Other deeds were achieved through the works of a man or many men. Plain and simple. In my own life, I look at what I've done, and it is clear for me to see what was a gift and what I have snatched through my very works. Michael says, and Michael knows that he has snatched much from many. He thinks of the few and the foe. He knows that he must not and he will never participate in any of their deeds and acts, no matter the prosperity that it could and might offer for his participation. Michael knows that he has all he will ever need in this gift. The adversarial foe is and has been gingerly consummating a progress into a form that is eminently capable of challenging the overlord's supremacy in this world. The foes have had enough and they will fight the few to the death. And not the slightest concern will be given to the matter of how many lives it will cost to achieve victory. The loss of life will be accepted as the necessary sacrifice that is to be given up in order to attain the advantageous spoils that this world has to offer. Through the days that have gone by, the foe's powers have grown, and so too have their numbers. They begin to surround that which the few prize most to have and to possess. It is this foe that has threatened the few many times over through intimidation and brute force. The foe covets that which the few are in possession of by way of legitimate inheritance. On the world stage, the foe continues to inflame disagreements and conflicts within situations that the few remain engaged in. It is clear to see. The foe's strides are purposeful. They use deception as a potent tool to sway another's inclination. They appropriate acts of betrayal against another to impose their will. They strike arrangements with another in this world. The angles that they enter into these accords with are highly suspect. in the minds of a few and another. The doubt and suspicion stirring rampantly with regards to the foes are warranted, for all can now see on the global stage that there is an amassment of weaponry and allotment of forces that have been achieved through the gingerly carried out steps of the foes. All suspicion is now validated. This amassment and allotment, which is threatening the center of all the overlord's assurance, possessions, and priorities, factually shows which direction the true objectives of the foes had always been steering toward. No matter what they would like us to believe, and like we have once learned, they have a finite ability, and they have unknowingly let their guard down in time. These are circumstances that can be concluded and can therefore be seen by watching the world. A foe is only waiting for the time to ripen. They wait patiently for the will of the few to be that of a weakened state, which will make conditions favorable for a foe's restless aggression to be unleashed, an aggression that the foe conceals as they can. Over a lifetime, there will be turns where one or another would be worn down, and so the foe lies in wait. The few have committed this exact same deeds against another, those who are divided. And that is the aforementioned throw, my friend. Only this time, it will not lead to untroubled protests and moderate disapproval. Moreover, it will unfold as a swift vengeance and enmity and slaughter. No force of object can save the few from the foe's intense rage. This rage will set occurrences in motion that will pass, just like the few's kin and folk have done on far too many occasions in days past. Michael says, through watching, Michael can interpret the few's cursed motives. These comprehensions have come to Michael in spite of the foe's calculated outward portrayals of good-willed intentions. Michael's thoughts then fall upon rulers and leaders, that segment within all. Michael knows another will choose to follow that leadership and rule. A person that is entrusted to rule has to be essentially infallible and flawless. However, there is no one that is. One simply cannot be. It is not that I lack faith in people. It is just that one cannot suffice in a completion for another through the matter of governance and rule. A mind and body does not coalesce as such.